Hello and welcome to the Try Talking Sport podcast, hosted by me, Joanne Murphy. Whether you are an athlete, adventurer, endurance enthusiast, or simply have an interest in sport, you have come to the right place for inspiration, encouragement, motivation, and as always, plenty of entertainment. It's race week in Galway. Horse racing, not triathlon racing. The city is buzzing and it's busier than usual. I had the pleasure of emceeing the first furlong event at the Ardalon Hotel as part of their Galway Races programme of events. The lunch supported the National Breast Cancer Research Institute, a fabulous afternoon filled with fun and pure giddiness. I think that's the word I need to use to describe the general excitement and atmosphere around the place at the moment, giddiness. It was so lovely to get the hair done, put on a nice dress. I managed to walk around in heels for a few hours, but it was great to just ditch the shorts, the t-shirt and runners for the afternoon. Away from the Galway races, the Ironman 70.3 Swansea on August 7th is quickly approaching, and the bumper festival of triathlon in Cork on August 13th and 14th for Ironman Ireland is coming around super fast. I really can't wait for both of these weekends of triathlon, and yes, I am definitely giddy for both of these events. If you are racing in Swansea or Cork, please do get in touch. In the meantime, be sure to check out the live webinar I'm hosting for Ironman Ireland next Tuesday, the 2nd of August at 7:30pm. You can find all the details and register on www.trytalkingsport.com. I'll be chatting with Ironman Ireland race director John Walnut, the 2019 Ironman Ireland female winner Emma Billam, and multiple national triathlon champion Hilary Hughes. The session is open to everyone to join and should be filled full of insight and inspiration. So be sure to sign up, especially if you are racing in Cork with us. Now, before I forget, a quick shout out to the Galway Gravel Grinder taking place on August 27th and to Dublin City Triathlon taking place on August 28th. I'll be at both events, the Gravel Grinder as a participant on the 65k route and at DCT as the race announcer. You can find out more about each event and sign up to take part over on our website www.trytalkingsport.com. It's going to be a busy few weeks of events ahead. Speaking of events, congratulations to everyone who took part in the Francis Thornton Galway Bay Swim recently. Over 120 swimmers, both solos and relays, took on the challenge of swimming from Clare to Galway, a 10k or a 13k crossing, depending on how you navigated the route. It was a glorious day in Galway for the swim. Although the tide made it hard work at times for the swimmers, they all came home in one piece. I had the opportunity for the very first time to go out in the safety boat on the day in the middle of the bay. It was super cool to see the boats and swimmers make their way across the bay firsthand. Being on the shore to welcome the swimmers home was such a special occasion. I see lots of raw emotion on the Ironman finish line, which is always very special. However, this was another level of emotion, with many swimmers taking on the challenge to raise funds for Cancer Care West due to their own personal connection with the charity. Each swimmer welcomed to Blackrock Diving Tower by the immediate and extended family of Francis Thornton. Our final finisher on the day had us all in tears when he reached the tower. A very special day all around. I managed to find a bit of a swimming mojo myself recently, and no, I won't be swimming the bay anytime soon, but yes, I finally got back into the sea and have done a few proper swims the last couple of weeks instead of just splashing and faffing in the water, which is fun too, but it felt really good to actually swim. Now, the distances are nothing to write home about, but I am slowly building back up the distance in skins from 500 metres to 700 metres, and I'm hoping it won't be long until I'm back up to over 2k and beyond. Speaking of going long, I took a notion last Friday to do a 100k spin on the bike for my birthday. Yeah, not sure it was the best idea. However, it was my first long spin since April. It took me until Sunday to recover, but I was buzzing after it. The glorious weather, the fantastic company of Karen, Jackie and Adrian, the tasty treats out in Luke Gerard. It was just fabulous. I had such a great spin and I really enjoyed it. Thankfully, I had a stash of Nuasan CBD muscle gel to put on my legs, which helped to speed up the recovery. If you fancy trying out their products, check them out on www.nuasan.com and use the code TTS15 to get a 15% discount on their product range. If you have used the products, please drop me a line. I'd love to know how you're getting on with them and what you think of them. So now to this week's episode with Gabriel Walsh, an active member of Galway Triathlon Club, who, after a few years of working away from home and away from sport, got cajoled into taking up triathlon, which has taken him on a journey that has seen him race multiple triathlons, complete Ironman Barcelona and the Galway Bay Swim. In recent years, his passion and interest in sport has moved from triathlon specifically to gravel biking, exploring and bikepacking. Gabriel's curiosity and fascination with exploring and adventure has seen him take on an Arctic Circle expedition as well as an epic 3,200km cycling adventure on the Eurovelo this year. His enthusiasm and can-do attitude, along with his genuine interest in people and helping them succeed, will have you signing up to your own adventure before you have time to say the words freedom and fun. Humble in his approach, taking adversity in his stride, he is one of the good guys. And if you are planning to take your own adventure or to step outside your comfort zone to achieve something you previously thought impossible, then this episode might just be the one to encourage you to go and find your own self-confidence and the belief in yourself that you can do anything you set your mind to. Now, go grab a cuppa and enjoy the show. Gabriel Walsh from Galway Triathlon Club, welcome to the podcast. A chance meeting at Blackrock in Salt Hill and a quick chat. And here you are on the podcast.
Joanne, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. Did you ever think you'd be doing a podcast with me, Gabriel Walsh?
I didn't. No, I honestly didn't. I wouldn't be one for listening to many podcasts as it is. So to find myself on one is definitely a change for me.
There's one thing that we have in common, other than we both love sport and triathlon, is that we both can talk for Ireland. And you probably talk twice as much as I do. So that's a massive feat in itself, really, when you think about it.
I don't know about that now. I've been told that, but there isn't much proof in it. But we'll see how the podcast goes, and maybe I'll prove that wrong.
Maybe it'll be a 3-part podcast instead of one episode.
Oh, I'd recommend it. Yeah.
So, Gabriel, for people who won't know you, lots of people in Galway will know you because you're an Ironman athlete completing Ironman Barcelona. You've also done the Galway Bay Swim, but most recently you've fallen in love with gravel biking, and you're also a member of the Galway Mountain Rescue Team. And you have recently returned from an Arctic Circle expedition, which took place earlier in the year. But you've also just completed various aspects of the Velo route, taking 4.5 weeks to cycle about 3,200km, which was an adventure in itself. So I'm not really sure where we'll start with the chat, Gabriel, other than maybe ask you, have you always been sporty, or was this something that you took up in later life?
Took up a lot of stuff in later life. Like growing up in my Cullen, I was mainly just hurling and football because that's what was around, a little bit of basketball at school and that kind of stuff, but nothing really we're talking about, but mainly hurling and football. And I played hurling and football till I was 25. I was no county star, but I was able to hold my own, Then, at 25, then I went off traveling. Then I was gone away for a couple of years. I was actually gone away for 6 years. So that's when the hurling and football kind of stopped. I did a little bit of cycling, but it wouldn't be much. It'd be just a case of cycling from my Cullen to Spiddle just to go over for a swim in the beach and then cycle home again. But very, very little. 20 or 30 kilometers was kind of the most I'd ever be doing, cycling, but mainly hurling and football up to 25. So then I moved away from home. Then I was gone away for 6 years at work, and was kind of spending half the year here, half the year in Australia. So it was a busy place I was working for, and didn't give me much time to do much sport. But any kind of chance I had off, I'd go off there hiking maybe, because I was living in Tipperary for half the year. So I used to be kind of hiking on the Galtee Mountains, or a bit of mountain biking and stuff, but nothing crazy, nothing major, just a couple hours just to, just get the head away from work for a while, and that was it. Moved home then 2012. And then I was kind of oh, do you know what? Maybe I'll go back down and play football again. But I went down to the pitch, and all the young lads that was in my Cullen before I left are now big lads. And I'd say that there was no chance of me making the team anyway, But but you know what? I kind of nearly lost the graw for hurling football because being away for a while, it was kind of a case I've kind of lost the graw for playing it, but I wouldn't mind just maybe just staying on the sideline now for a while, So at that point, then a cousin of mine was getting married. And he was into triathlons and everything. He was always asking me, "Oh, you should do one, And I was like, "Sure, I haven't got time for that." And one, I couldn't swim either, So I remember the day after his wedding, anyway, he was saying, he goes, "Oh, look, we're organising a triathlon there up in Westmeath. You should do it. It's only a sprint. It's handy. It's just 750 meter swim and a 20k cycle and a 5k run." And I was like, cycle and run, no bother. But the swim, I was like, there's no way I can swim 750 meters. And then But sure, look, after a few drinks anyway, I kind of went, yeah, sure, look, I'll give it a go. Anyway, he was telling me how easy it is anyway. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a go. And the following day, then he rang me, then he kind of goes, you agreed to that yesterday, didn't you? And I said, oh, yeah, I did. So I literally just, I agreed to it. So I said, right, I have to learn how to swim. And like up to that point, I was only really able to breaststroke. So I was at home and I was on YouTube looking at how to master how to breathe while swimming, because I was the kind of one, I go into the pool and I nearly hold my breath just to get to the other end of the pool, you know. But I had 6 weeks in to basically learn how to swim, and I kind of had in my head, right, well, there's no walls to be kicking off in the lake like where I'm going to do the swim like. So I said I have to be prepared to be able to swim 1,000 meters in the pool if I'm going to be able to do 750 undisturbed in the lake, you know. So I had basically 6 weeks to do it, and it was a case of like watching YouTube clips and where to put your hand in the water and how to breathe and all this, and like, you know, basically bamboozling myself with stuff. But I went into the pool anyway in Galway, signed up for membership, and I just started self-training myself, you know. Anyway, the day comes, first time ever putting on a wetsuit. My cousin gave me a loan of his and put it on and went off and done it. And I remember just getting out of the water, looking back, and I was like, I'm not the last one out of here. And I was delighted. Like, I don't even ask me what time I did, but I just know I got out of the water. And I was like, geez, I'm not the last one. This is great. And I went off and did the rest of it. Then I flew around the rest of it, you know, and it was grand. So then I was kind of going like, do you know what? Now I like this, you know, it's kind of it's a bit of a change from, you know, from the rest of the sports I've been doing, you know. So yeah, so then that was 2012. So then like it was in the end of 2012. So 2013, then I joined the Galway Triathlon Club. And kind of since then, I've just, you know, the first year, like obviously I met a lovely gang in the club, like, and we're all just doing a few of the local tries and that. So like for the next couple of years, I was just doing like your various kind of distances, you know, from your sprints to Olympics and that, you know. That was it. I was enjoying it. I remember the first year, I remember I'd done a load of triathlons. I was doing one nearly every month. Do you know what I mean? I was kind of going, there could be one in Westport, there could be one in Ennis, there was one in Limerick. You know, I was just doing, we really got into it, a gang of us there, you know. But the thing is, it was all about the weekend away. Like we were basically like, we'd go to Kilkenny for a weekend and we do a triathlon, you know, like it was just an excuse to have a night out. Like, and that's the way it was. And it was great. Like we were kind of went from zero to hero, a few of us there, like in the first year, you know. But then after like kind of a year or two, then we kind of said, right, start looking at kind of at the bigger things, you know, where you'd be like training for 6 months for like a half Ironman or something or more or whatever. And the Galway Bay Swim thing was kind of on my target as well, because I seen people, like I think it was in 2014 was the first time I ever actually was in Salt Hill to watch it. So I said to myself, do you know what? I seen people come out of the water, and I said, gee, you know, like I can do that. So yeah, 2015. Then I just I did the Galway Bay Swim and loved it. I actually loved training for it. I actually gave everything else a little bit of a backseat, because I was kind of afraid of, like, you know, well, one, not being able to do it and have to be pulled out of the water. So I literally just kind of gave it. I went full bore on the swimming that time, and I kind of just took it easy in the cycling and running, you know. And yeah, so did the Galway Bay Swim. That was what, 13k coming across the bay there on 2015. So when that was done, then I was kind of back to the triathlons again. You know, like kind of doing the likes of your Olympic distance one in Hell of the West and that. And again, my cousin then, basically Declan, got on the phone to me and he says, "Hey, do you want to do an Ironman?" And I was like, "Not a chance." And then his brother Pierce got on to me. He was like, "Sure, look it." And he said, "The swim is no bother to you. Sure, look at the cycle's no bother to you." And I was like, "Yeah, but run the marathon." And I did a marathon previous, and I was destroyed on it, you know. But he's like, "Look at," he said, "Can you do 10k in an hour?" And I said, "I can, yeah." And he goes, "Just do 4 10ks, and that's a 4 hour marathon." He goes, "If you can do that," he said, "that's, you know." And I was like, "Do you know what? When you look at it that way, sign me up." So I signed up for the Barcelona then, and the three of us basically trained for IRONMAN Barcelona. That was 2017. And it actually, like, you know, because I had a great group of people to train with here in Galway as well. Like, you know, like we had great fun actually training for like 9 months before it or whatever it was. But like on the day, it actually wasn't that hard at all, because we'd all the kind of, you know, the hard miles done, you know. So that was IRONMAN Barcelona in 2017. And then I suppose then from 18 then came around then, and there was a few here in my Cullen who were going up to the Galway Wind Park on their gravel bikes. And I was kind of looking at them, and no, I just had a mountain bike, so I kind of said, "Should I go up there for you know, for a spin with them, you know?" And then it was kind of coming into the winter then as well, and you don't want to be on the road bike in the winter and stuff like that. Like, but it was great just to get off the roads and get up into the off roads, you know. And slowly I was getting more into it, and then all of a sudden I was down to the bike shop and I was buying a gravel bike, and they were all going over to all this gang were going over to Northumberland over in England, in the UK, to do an event. And they were saying, "Oh, you should come! Like, you should come. You'd be well able for it, like, you know." And so it was 130k of a gravel cycling race, and it's like, again, it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's in the Kielder National Forest. It was a beautiful area, but I mean, once you leave the start line, you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you're self-supported. I mean, you're carrying all your food and water, GPS, all this kind of stuff, and like emergency blankets and everything, because, like, you know, conditions change when you go up into those mountains, like, you know. So we started training for that, and I went over and I did that, and fairly green going into it now, but I loved it. It was definitely tougher than any Ironman you'll ever do, but by God, it was brilliant. When we crossed the line, all of us, when I say all of us, we crossed different times, because from once it started, we just did our own thing, you know. Brilliant event. And then came back here, then to Ireland, and again, I was like, right, looking for the Irish ones, you know. So there's a great one, the Lakelander up from Anna. We did that one. That was brilliant. And there's a Gravel Grind West in Westport. And now that they're organising a one right on my doorstep, the Galway Gravel Grinder is going to be in August here in Mycullen. So so I kind of got really into the gravel grinding, you know. And it was, to know what, it was a saviour during COVID times, because there's a forest here right beside me, and I was able to just go out on the bike, and it's the best isolation you can get from anywhere. Like, no one is near you, and you just go off there on your bike, you know. And whereas, like, you didn't want to be on the roads near people or whatever, like, you know. So, like, the gravel bikes were just absolutely brilliant. And you know what? I thought I knew Mycullen. Well, I didn't, because there's so many by roads I was never down that you wouldn't go down with a road bike. But when you have the gravel bike, you'll go down anywhere. And I found out more roads and more people, and found out where people lived and everything, and you name it. And it's great. It's, you know, so that has been my little outlet. And even though, like, you know, you're cycling maybe at a slower pace and all that, but you're going up hills and stuff, I have got so much stronger, because now I know, like, when I go out on the road bike with people, I'm able to keep up with people I used to keep up with before, you know. And I definitely found myself way more stronger, and more endurance, absolutely more endurance. Like, I can keep going for longer now, you know. So it was a great way to mix up my road cycling and gravel biking. But did I go on a bit there, Joanne?
No, you actually weren't too bad, really. I was trying to get in there with a question for about the last 7 minutes, but I said I'd just let you keep going, because you had me intrigued, kind of listening back to all the stuff you had done. I'd forgotten about the trip you took over to England, and that race that you did. It seems to me you have a bit of a rubber arm. Somebody says to you, "Ara, come on, you'll be grand, you can do it." And then the next thing you do it. So the Trion V race, IRONMAN Barcelona, and then the race over in the UK. Which is always a good way to be, though, isn't it? Because it sounds to me like you're just filled full of excitement for adventure.
Well, yeah, there's, yes, a little bit of a rubber arm, but also I wouldn't make I'd make, as you say, like, an educated decision or a calculated decision. Like, I would calculate the answer before I'd say it, you know. Like, I'd look into, like, when you break it down, things are very, very doable, you know. And I've learned over the years, like, as well, that, like, you know, that, you know, it's not as bad as what you think. Like, you know, like, when you break it down, like, when you're not trying to win something, you're going to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, like, I'm only trying to beat myself out there. Like, I'm not trying to beat anybody else, you know. So yeah.
And I think as well, your cousin who said it's only 4 10Ks, you know, you can do that. When you start to break down the big elephant into smaller chunks, it does make things seem a little bit more achievable.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, like, at that time, well, we say I probably wouldn't do it now, but at that time, I'd be trying to do a 10K in 40 minutes. So the way he was telling me, like, can you do it in an hour? And I'm like, of course I can. And he says, just do 4 of them. And I was like, 4 hours, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, do you know what, when you look at it that way? Whereas if he didn't say that, I probably wouldn't have looked at it that way, you know?
Your fitness level must have been fairly good, though, to begin with, to be able to kind of just step into the pool and do the swimming and learn how to swim, and then to take on the 20K bike and the 5K run. But your fitness level, you must have a good level of endurance to be able to just take on these challenges. Now, I know that you do quite a bit of training now, and you have a bit of free time to get some training in, but if you think of other people who are starting out maybe in their triathlon journey, or maybe contemplating doing something like what you've done across the Velo route or the expedition or Ironman, what piece of advice would you give to people?
Well, I suppose it's like we've just mentioned there, like, just break things down. Like, you know, whether you're doing a try or a sprint, whatever that, like, you know, just break things down and just say, I have to do a swim, and just do that. You know what I mean? And that's it, you know. Then come out of the water and go, I now do the cycle. And again, if you're not trying to win it, just get through it. Now, again, I know with me, it probably takes a bit of ignorance. There's a lot of times you just kind of, I just don't stop. I just keep going. I might slow down, but I just keep going, like, but it does take a bit of grit, all right? Like in these things, like, and I do know, going back to the gravel grinding thing and stuff, like some of the conditions we went out in, and I mean, you wouldn't put anything out in it, and we went out in it, and it just, like, freezing and hail, you name it, like, especially when you're up in the mountains, and you just, again, a little bit of grit, and you'll keep going, and you come back in from it, and then you just have a hot shower, it's all over, it's done, and you feel great then, but there is a little bit of ignorance, you know what I mean, like, and if you just have to kind of just go out and do it,
Bit of stubbornness rather than ignorance, really.
That's yeah. Bit of stubbornness, yeah. But I wouldn't be stubborn now, Joanne.
I don't know now about that. But actually, what's quite funny as well, Gabriel, is I had been gravel biking with Pat Duran for a little bit way before COVID, and he brought me up to the wind farm. But it was only the earlier part of this year where I was thinking, gosh, I really think I want to get back into maybe trying out gravel properly. And I know that Eve and Steph have their gravel bikes, and I could see the other girls doing some of it as well. And it was your gravel bike that we went out on that Monday morning.
Yeah, that's right,
for a couple of hours. We had tried to lose me in the middle of the mountains up at the wind farm. But 2 days later, I went and bought a gravel bike, and I absolutely love it. You mentioned earlier, you're going a little bit slower on the gravel bike, but I think you're working harder even though you're going slower. But it's more about the freedom and the adventure that you can have with the gravel bike versus when you go out on your road bike. It always seems like you have to try and hit a certain pace or a certain distance. Whereas on the gravel, it's definitely more about the freedom and the exploration and the expedition even, because you're bringing lots more stuff with you when you're on the gravel bike versus the road bike.
Oh, yeah. When I go out on the road bike, you're trying to be as light as possible. When I go out on the gravel bike, I have a little bag there, and I'd have sandwiches in it. I have a small little 300ml flask. People look at you and go, like, are you going away for a weekend? You know what I mean? Like, but it's all about, like, because there's no cafes out in the mountains, like, so you have to bring your own cafe with you. And the guys here, they've been going out with, they're a great bunch of lads, and we're like watching all them and everything. And like, it's again, like, it is actually lovely. There's been times we've been sitting down, it could be pouring rain, and we'll be sitting down having a sandwich, having a cup of tea on the side of a mountain, and then get up, then hop on the bike and get going again before you get cold. And so it's a different type of cycling. Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of the cold, talk to me about the Arctic Circle expedition that you went on earlier this year. You were in the final preparation for that when we went out for our little spin, and I remember you saying that I think the bog trials were on, maybe the Galway Bay bog trials were on, and you were deciding not to do them in case you came off the bike, that there was a lot of prep had gone into taking part in this expedition. So tell us a little bit about that and why you signed up to it.
So why I signed up. So I like to go skiing, right? Like, every year I like to go, a week of skiing, and because of COVID, obviously I didn't go away for a couple of years. And then even when we were allowed to go away and travel, I didn't want to go skiing because, like, there'd be huge queues and, like, restrictions and everything, that kind of stuff. And I'm just not going to enjoy it because, like, it's an expensive week, like, you want to be able to enjoy it. So I just said, I'll just take a break from it, The company I went with to the Arctic was called Adventure.ie. They're up in Wicklow. And my girlfriend Sarah kind of had a bit of a contact with them before in a job that she used to work in before. And I was kind of looking at their website, and I seen they do this Arctic Circle expedition, and you basically take people who are totally green, who've never done anything like this before, and they just bring them out into the Arctic and teach you Arctic skills, winter skills, how to cross country ski, and you're pulling all your gear and all that kind of stuff, and basically how to stay out for the night, So I kind of was saying, do you know what, I might kind of have a look at this, and rang up your man anyway, this fella Ronan, he's the owner of the company, and he was so lovely on the phone, and he told me what it was all about and everything, and coming off the phone I said, that's it, I'm signing up. So I signed up for it anyway. Again, like anything else, I wanted to be fit, because then, like, you're pulling a sled behind you, like, with all your gear in it, and you're moving from point to point, and I didn't want to be one, holding up the rest of the group. I didn't know what they were going to be like or what experience they had, but two, like, when you're fit for something, you'll enjoy it more, you know what I mean? And then I didn't know how fit I was supposed to be. So, like, if anyone was up in the wind farm there and they seen me, if they seen a fella with a harness on them and pulling a tire on the place, you'll know it was me, But basically, I used to strap on a backpack for a bit of weight, put loads of water in it for weight, and I had a harness on, and I'd be pulling a tire, and that was basically just to simulate being able to pull a sledge. Now I have a woods beside my house as well, and the harness and the tire is there, and I was going around there in the evenings, just but it was just to build up my fitness and how to pull a bit of weight. The guy like Ronan was kind of giving us these little updates and kind of saying, okay, a couple of weeks ago, and I remember it was like 2 or 3 weeks out, and he just gave a little update to us, and he goes, any you're into anything, like mountain biking or anything like that, he goes, maybe take a step back from, because, like if you get injured now, you might be ready for it. And and it's not as if you can go the following week. Like there's a kind of a window we can go, and that was it. Like, and it was just that was the week I booked. And if you can't go, you lose out on a lot of money. So yeah, I remember there was a couple of races I just took a step back. I said no, because like, especially a few of the gravel races, I mean, if you come down there, you're going to be hurt, So and again, like, I was kind of saying to myself, oh, sure, I could go out and do it and just go nice and handy, just for the day. But then, sure, like, don't you know, well, a bit of competitiveness. So some fella comes up beside you and you're going to try and pass them. So I just said, you know what, I'll just not enter them. So literally, yeah, I was just, I was cycling on my own there for a good few weeks, because I didn't want to be going with groups, because there's one thing about cycling your own on the gravel, you can control as much as you can, but when you're in a group, you can't control the rest of the group really. Like, so, yeah, I was doing my own thing for a good few weeks, just trying not to get injured and trying to keep the head above water and all that. So that's kind of why, anyway, I signed up for it, and yeah, and you were there to witness me going out for a handy day spin on the bike.
It certainly was a handy Monday morning spin. Talk us through like what a typical day was out on the expedition. It was 6 days, wasn't it?
It was 8 days in total. Like, with a day getting there, a day coming back. So we say, but we're like 6 days on the snow. So you fly to a little place. It's 150 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, up in Finland, and you're basically picked up by the owner of the company out there, and then he basically brings out to a cabin, and a beautiful timber cabin or log kind of cabin in the middle. It's in the middle of the woods, and there's no one around. I think the nearest house was like 20k away or something like that, but beautiful cabin in the middle of nowhere. But there's no electricity, no running water. There's a river running behind the cabin, probably 20 meters behind the cabin, and that's where you get your fresh water from. But I mean, that river is frozen over now, so I'll tell you how we get our water. But basically, we land there at night time. You land at night, it's pitch black, no electricity, so you're going around head torches straight away, and you're going in, finding your bed, getting set up, and then he gives you a bit of a brief on the area and that kind of stuff. Your toilets are these eco-loos, which is outside about 100 meters from the building, and how to use them in the middle of the night and all this kind of stuff, and the safety. And then he brought us down to the river to show us the river. Now the river is frozen over. There's about half a meter of ice on top of this river, so like, you're not going to break through the ice. You can walk on it, but there's half meter ice, but then there's another half meter of snow then on top of that then as well. So like, you have to there's a path shoveled out onto the river where you go out into the middle of it, and there was a hole then in the middle of the river where we'd have to get our water from. So every morning then you'd go down. We were kind of with 3 teams. It was like a water team, a fire team, and a cooking team. So like, we say if you're on the water team, your day was every morning you go down to the river, and with a big like iron bar, like a crowbar for the world, you'd break the ice in the river and make enough of a hole for your bucket of water, and just pail out buckets of water and bring it up to the house, because that's your drinking water for the day, and cooking and stuff. Now, we had the luxury of having another little cabin beside ours, and it was a sauna, because now Finland is the home of saunas. You'd load up this big, what we used to call a cauldron, massive thing of water in the sauna, and have it ready for the sauna, at the end of the day. The fire team then is going around, and they have to load up all the firewood. So we had a log cabin, another log cabin with a load of firewood. They're just drawing a load of timber over and having timber left beside every fire, because we had a couple of stoves inside in the cabin and stuff, and then we obviously had a fire inside in the sauna. And the food team then they'd basically be in the kitchen helping the chef, setting the table, washing up, kind of all the prep that goes with all the dinners and stuff. So every morning we'd have breakfast, maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. All them jobs are done obviously first, then you have your breakfast, and the guy then gives us a bit of a brief what we're going to be doing. So the first day, like, we all went out and we put on skis, and like, I had a little bit of skiing kind of background, but it's a totally different type of skiing. Like, it was downhill I would have done, which is like, you're going over, getting a ski lift up to the top of the mountain, ski down. That's what I was on. But cross country skiing is totally different. It's like the cross training in the gym. You're using every muscle, like, you're using your combination, your arms, your hands, arms, legs kind of combination, to move forward, and you have to be good kind of balance as well, because you're shifting your weight back and over from ski to ski. And it took a bit of mastering, right? Like, but we say, like, we were probably a day or two learn how to ski first, but they brought us out into these beautiful areas, like, and you will not travel over there without skis or snowshoes, because there's like 2 meters of snow underneath you, and it's like a bowl of sugar. If you take off your ski, you're going to fall straight to the bottom, and so you have to leave your skis on you. Even if you fall over, do not take off your skis. You have to manage to get yourself up without, and it was just, you're just trudging through deep snow. So even on your skis, the snow is well up over your knees, and you're just trudging through, like you're making kind of tracks. So the person up the front is breaking it, and then everyone else is come behind you. So you're kind of rotating around and all that. But beautiful areas were brought into, and like, it was relatively flat. It was small hills, like, but nothing major, you know. So then once we had the skiing a little bit kind of mastered, then we say, the next day then we brought out all the pucks, they call it. It was like a little sled. So the puck then was like, for the first day we just threw in our backpacks just for a bit of weight, but and learn how to pull them. But they're like, it's a big long harness coming off it, so you have to learn how to, like, if you're going through all the woods and forests, you can't just go any old way, because you have to remember, like, you're pulling like a trailer behind you, so you have to take these wide sweeping turns and going through trees, and the guy behind you might be helping you as well, but he's, you know, like moving the sled and stuff. But it was all about getting to learn how all that. But now, as well as that, it's hard work. The big things you're trying not to do is you're managing your perspiration. And that's something we learned about on the first night. And like, the thing is, you do not want to sweat, because if you sweat, that's fine, like in every other, you know, when we're down here. But if you sweat up in the Arctic and then you stop, that'll freeze like straight away. And if it's freezing your skin, you could develop hypothermia. So it's a case of like, you're managing your perspiration the whole time. So even though you're trudging through and it's hard work and everything, it's all about like having the right layers. So depending on the temperature and stuff, like, you know, there's no rule of thumb for everybody. Everybody's different, you know. So I'm the kind of person, I do run hot, like I sweat. So I know myself that I was wearing less layers than a lot of other people, you know. So then you have to manage yourself, like, you know. So it's a case of like, you're opening up zips, let the air in and let the sweat out. We'll say, you know, at the time I was managing by, I'd have a hat on, I could be taking the hat on, off, because like 40% of your heat will go to the top of your head. So I was letting the heat out to the top of my head, like that's the way I was doing, you know. And I haven't got much hair to keep it in anyway, so it was an easy way of letting the heat out. But yeah, like we learned this off the guy, you know, how to manage, and like there is no fast rule. You have to learn yourself, like, you know. So if you think you're sweating, you either slow down or take off layers, and you're just basically hold up everybody and just say, look at, you know, the rule of thumb we have over there, if you see something, say something, and if you think there's something wrong with you, don't go holding it in saying, oh no, I'm fine, because conditions change very quickly over there. And you might think, oh look, I'm only a bit sweaty, but when you stop, and we had a prime example, one of the guys was bucketed in sweat one day, and I said, John, take off your t-shirt. And he took off the t-shirt, and within seconds it was frozen, and you could lift it up like a board. You could just hold it horizontal. That was the thing, like, you know, you have to be very, very careful. So it was all like, you know, like layering properly and how to wear the right clothes and all that kind of stuff. But the end objective was to be able to stay out and camp out for 24 hours in the Arctic. So like every day we'd be coming back in to a cabin. So like, you know, like worst case scenario, if we're bucket and sweat, whatever, like, you know, we have our emergency clothes and everything, all that kind of stuff, you know, with us, and we'd have like emergency food and if things went wrong. But we would always come back to the cabin every night. So like, you were learning your lessons, you know, and you're coming back and you're able to change your clothes and all that kind of stuff. But the thing was, we were trying to be getting it right. We've got 5 days to try and get it right, because on the 6th day, when we leave the cabin, we're gone for 24 hours until we come back then. And we're going a fair distance, you know. So like, the kind of distance that when you're out there, you're a good bit away from home, you know. Every night then we'd always come back and we kind of have a bit of recap, bit of a debrief, how the day went, what's coming up the next day. Now, as I said, the sauna, we had the luxury that we had a separate building of the sauna. So every evening, whoever's in the fire team would go down straight away, light the fire, heat up the sauna, you know, and it was heating up all this hot water. So at least we were just going down, and we were down there, little buckets and pails, and we used to be basically all having a wash inside in the sauna, as well as having a sauna, and then going out and jumping into freezing snow and everything. Oh, look, it was brilliant crack. You know, I don't want to ruin the surprise if somebody else wants to go on the trip, like, but it was absolutely brilliant crack and everything. Lovely bunch of people, you know, from all walks of life, which is like everything you go into. This, like every sport you go into, there's always someone from every walks of life. But you know, a great kind of group. We all clicked. None of us knew each other, and we all just clicked straight away, you know. And it's probably actually a good thing that none of us knew each other either as well, because like, if there was, you know, everyone would be staying in groups and all that kind of stuff. So then the last day came, and the night before, the guide was just doing a bit of a group kind of talk and giving us a little bit of prep what's coming up. And he basically put the list up on. He basically then kind of goes, right, you've learned all the skills now, he said, right, now you have to put them to use. And he put a list up on a door, on a whiteboard. This is what we need to have packed. I'm not going checking this. So this is up to you to pack all this gear and have all this gear, because if you don't have this, I won't have a spare one, he said. So it's up to you, to have a do it, he goes. I also have to elect expedition leader, and tomorrow he's going to lead you, he said, and he's going to be in charge. So he goes, I'm going to walk away now, and I'll come back in a few minutes, and you have to elect a leader. And before he got up, they just went, I elect Gabriel. And then it was like, I second. They all seconded, and I was like, oh, Jesus. So anyway, so I got to lead it. I was kind of pulled aside then with him and basically given a map and a compass, because he knew I was only after joining Galway Mountain Rescue, so he knew I had a bit of map skills and kind of navigation skills. So he more or less gave me a brief of, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing tomorrow. And I was like, grand, yeah. But sure, look, I was kind of going, yes, yeah, grand, yeah, fine, this is handy, you know. Sure, like, he's going to be there, like, he's going to be in the background anyway, so like, there was no big deal, you know. But the next morning anyway, got up anyway, but I had to make sure everybody had all their stuff. Like, it's a massive list of stuff, make sure everyone had all these things packed away and everything, and food and water and all that, you know. And we got going, and I remember, like, we had to like leave the cabin. He said, right guys, I'm hoping to be leaving here around 11 or 12 tomorrow. And I said, no, we're leaving at 11, that's it. There's no point saying 12, because if you say 12, it will be 12. No, 11, that's it. And like, so I was playing hardball from the start. That's it. We're leaving at 11 o'clock, guys. So we hit off anyway, and we were out the door, 11 o'clock gone, packed, and we hit off. We're about, I'd say, a couple of 100 meters into it. And next thing he landed over to me, the guide with a radio. And he goes, you'll need this, because I'm off, he said. If you've any trouble, you give me a buzz on the radio. And we just done a radio check to see if they're working. And he just put an X on the map, and he goes, that's the rendezvous. He said, I'll see you there. And it was a case of like, navigate to it. Up till now, I've only navigated out in mountains where you can use your rivers and cliffs and crags and different things, you know. And now you're out in a forest, but there's snow, deep snow and everything. But like, there's rivers and different things, but the rivers are covered over with snow. So like, you have to kind of say, well, I suppose the river's over there because there's no trees there, you know, like, and you have to like basically follow and not go on the river. The one thing he told me is just do not go on the river. Even though the rivers are frozen, sometimes at the edges of the river are actually the more vulnerable parts, because the ice is actually thinner at the edge where it meets land, so that you can crack and fall through there, you know. So anyway, he basically let me lead it, and it was a case of, there's one thing about me kind of getting to the rendezvous, the exit on the map, but it's getting everyone else there as well. You kind of have to split the team. Then we're all going along in a line basically to follow each other. So I wanted to kind of have good people at the back, kind of protect the people, you know, because like, you know who the weaker are and who the stronger are and that kind of stuff. But now everybody had their strengths and weaknesses of different things. So like, when, you know, we say the cooking or this and this, you know, they thought the people, you know, were good at that. But we say when it comes to like trudging through snow and making tracks and that kind of stuff, I knew, well, I'm up front navigating. So myself and this other good fellow, we were kind of the same kind of ability and we were just basically breaking tracks, breaking snow, and everyone else come behind. There was two other members from Mayo Mountain Rescue on the thing that I just happened to meet over there. And there were two hardy women now, and they've got good heads in them, and I said I'll keep them at the back because they can keep, I would say at the back and in the middle, and they can keep the track people because they have a wealth of experience as well, you know. And then there was a guard in our thing, and I left the guard at the back. It's always good to have a guard at the back of the group anyway. He was keeping 9 things as well. But so like that, we met our way along anyway. And every now and again, the man would obviously touch in the radio and he'd say everything okay, and I was like yeah, grand, and kept moving along anyway. And and then he was asking for an estimated time to be there and like, you know, all this kind of stuff. Now, in my head, I was like, he has to be nearby. Like, he's not going to leave me out in the middle of the Arctic on my own, you know. So, you know, but anyway, like he did. He actually let us out a fair, like, if anything did happen, they were going to be a good while getting to us. You know what I mean? You know, and again, I'm the only one with the radio. So if anything happened to me or I dropped the radio in the snow, like that was, you know, you're in trouble. But I mean, they weren't a million miles away, but they were enough to be away if anything had happened, we'd be dealing with ourselves, you know. But anyway, we got to the point and it was great. And next thing, your man came along and he said, in the 9 years he's doing that trip, we were the second group he felt confident in actually letting off on their own, he said, you know, because we had a good group, like, you know, as I said, like, I have a little bit of a head on my shoulders. The guard has a good sturdy head. The 2 girls from Mayo Mountain Rescue, they were, you know, like well able to go as well, you know. So between all of us, like half the group there and there, like was able to manage ourselves. So we just had to manage the other half. Then, you know, I loved it. I loved that end of it because I was watching everyone, like just, you know, like, observing everyone. And, you know, if I seen like one of the guys was sweating, I was like, look, you know, because they were doing their own thing. They mightn't realize they're sweating, but I would see it. So like you're kind of looking at that, but you're also watching things like, you know, hypothermia, like, you know, like now again, we weren't going down that, we weren't near it, but again, you don't know, like if someone is doing something and you kind of say he's a bit confused there, you know, that they're the signs of it, you know, and you're kind of watching those kind of signs. Or even hunger, people will forget to drink and people forget to eat. Maybe it's just a thing for like doing like cycle race and stuff. Like we're so used to, Joanne, just know when to drink, know when to eat, or, you know, or we might say we drink every half an hour, drink, you know. So people might go hours over there without drinking, not even realizing they're thirsty. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny to think, oh, I'm not thirsty, it's not hot, you know, but like you actually need to drink a lot over there. So like that, I was stopping people for regular breaks, take a drink, eat, nibble on something, you know. It's better to be eating a little bit all the time than having a big massive meal at the end of the day, you know. So it was great just to manage the team. Yeah, so we got there and we got to the camp, and then setting up a camp then, look, it was was just, again, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, whoever wants to go there, but it was just absolutely magic. We're on the side of a lake. Now, this lake looking out into it was huge, massive. It looked like a plateau of snow. Like, we were out on the lake, you know. We set up camp, and then we had to do our cooking. But again, cooking then, it's not as easy as you think. It's like we're having small stoves trying to boil water. You can only carry so much water. So you're melting snow then to make more water. But this snow was so little moisture in it because it's so dry up there. Like, you're melting like buckets and buckets of snow just to make enough for a glass of water. You couldn't believe how much snow. So you little gas canisters, and if they get freezing cold, they won't work. So you're literally having a gas canister inside in your top, like literally on my belly to keep warm. And then next to the flame would go out, and you're swapping canisters, putting that one into your top. You're just rotating gas canisters just to get the gas going, just to keep melting snow, you know. If you're able to build a fire, it'd be a different story. Like, but we weren't going to build a fire in the snow because you have to dig down 2 meters to get to the ground before you build. You know, we were just using gas for our cooking and stuff. But like that, we'd carry on all our food and water, and then you've all that done. But then you have to melt more snow for your breakfast the following day, and another liter of water for your drinking water the next day, or sorry, another 2 liters of water each. So we're just melting snow. Like, there was all these kind of tasks you had to do, and like, if you don't do them, you won't be able to do it the next day, you know. So it was brilliant. It was great, and it was a case of like, when I rocked into camp, it was like, right, give everyone the instructions to go. And you know what? And I think triathlon has kind of helped me with that, like, as in our transitions. When we come into a transition, like, and we've all these things to do, like, you know, there's a certain order, and there's a certain way you do things that will work better, you know. Like, there's no point to doing something before you putting the cart before the horse. Like, so like that, I had as I was making my way into camp, I knew these are the things we have to do, you know. So I was like, obviously put up your tents first, you know, and all that, like, and because at least then if weather turns, you can all jump into your tents, you know. But like, it was a case of all these different things that kind of, and it just went well. And your man actually came back and he said, listen, fair play to you, you're the second group we ever thought we could let off on their own, and you know, you did well, you know. So it was a great trip. I will say it was a great trip, and I came home with great memories, you know, and lovely bunch of friends after it. Yeah.
You're so animated when you're talking about it. I know the listeners won't be able to see your facial expressions or your hand movement, but just to see the animation in your face and your body language on camera when you're talking about it. Would you ever consider becoming a tour guide or a tour leader with these guys? Is it something that you would potentially look at, seeing as though you had such a good experience? Is that something that might be on the cards?
Do you know what? I'd love it. I'd love to go back to this fella and say, hey, look, I'll go with you there for a week, and you know, you don't even have to pay me. You know, like, I'd nearly go on a trial. I would absolutely love it, and like, literally go as a donkey for him, basically carrying stuff and everything. But you know yourself, you've probably seen me on days out with the beginners on the bike and stuff. Like, you know, I like taking groups out, like, you know, like, and again, if you have a little bit of knowledge, it's good to pass it on. So yeah, absolutely, I'd love to do a bit of guide work again, you know, like that, you know, if it ever came up, you know. Yeah.
And if you were to pick one highlight of the trip, what would it be?
It's definitely the last day. Like, and I suppose to be in, like, I suppose when I say in charge, like, you know, like, I wasn't a drill master, but like, you know, probably being the one that was in charge of it was probably the highlight. Because I suppose if I was at the back of the group, in the middle of the group, I suppose I might be a bit critical. Oh, geez, you know, if someone else was doing it, you know, I'd be kind of going, oh, you know, maybe I'd be putting holes in his methods, you know, whatever. Like, whereas at least it was me or nothing, you know. And I said to them at the start, I said, look, guys, like, I've never done this before. Pull me aside and rein my horns in if I'm saying something that I shouldn't be doing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but they didn't. I had a little bit of assertiveness, but I wasn't a drill sergeant with a meter, you know. Like, at the end of the day, like, I didn't want to be bossing, like, but I also want to do things right, you know. So that was kind of the highlight, that everything went well. Hindsight, it would have been actually kind of, I would say, another bit of a great story if something little bit wrong went and we had to resolve it. Like, you know, I'm not saying fall into a frozen river and have, you know, but like, maybe if there was something, even if their leg got into the river and we had to like just get them up and taken off layers and redress and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? If there was just something that was out of the ordinary, but it just went so well. Now, maybe because I prepared well, but you know what I mean? But I would have liked maybe if there was a little bit more kind of grit or something that we would have had to literally pull out a rope or something, or do, you know, use the training we had learned and put more into practice. You know, like, we had all these kind of worst case scenarios kind of ready for in case it happens.
But maybe the fact that you were so well prepared is why everything seemed so normal, versus somebody like me or some random person off the street who might never have done anything like this. It might have been so far out of their comfort zones. But because you're so used to, you know, Galway Mountain Rescue, the triathlon, all the experience you already had was like a culmination of being able to deliver the expedition leaders activity for that 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose like I wasn't nervous about it because the thing is, I kind of thought like, you know what, I've enough now, and like obviously I was only there for a couple of days, so like anything I learned was fresh in my head. If I went back now, maybe it could be a different story. But yeah, like it was fresh in my head, so like and up till now, like things don't phase me too much. I've noticed there has been times when things happen, and I just react to it, and I just do it. Like I kind of switch on to these, just certain things might happen, whatever, and whereas I do notice other people might step back. Now, it'll probably get me into trouble someday, but I do always step forward, So, yeah.
Okay, moving quickly on to your cycling adventure over the past couple of weeks. That's the next bit we wanted to talk to. I definitely think there's more we could talk about with regards to the expedition, but I am conscious of time. And I do want to find out a bit more about the velo route because Steph Carr from Cycling Connacht and from Galway Triathlon Club and Galway Bay Cycling Club is actually on the route at the moment. I think she's almost finished her trek. But you spent 5.5 weeks away, 4.5 weeks of those cycling, an average of 100 kilometers a day, and you were on various velo routes across Europe. Why?
So I got the opportunity to get a bit of time off work, and like I was kind of like, and I knew this was coming up, and I was kind of going, do you know what? Now I'll do something like, there's been so many times like over the years, you kind of go, oh, I love to do that, I love to do this, love to do that, like. But I was kind of like, when will I ever get a month off, or when will I get like normally I'd only have a week or 2 weeks off, Rarely have 2 weeks off actually in one block, but I had a bit of time off, and I said, you know what? Now I'll do something. I was kind of looking at things like, well, I walk the Camino, or I do this or that, whatever. And then I was like, hang on a second, no, I love cycling. I'll do something cycling. Just looking at Facebook groups there of people doing kind of all the bike packing kind of stuff and everything. I kind of went, I'll go bike packing. Literally there last year, I basically got a couple of bike bags and stuff, put them onto the bike, and I did a bit of a recce just to see how the bags work out and that kind of stuff. And I got the train to Dublin, cycled kind of onto the Royal Canal, and the Royal Canal goes all the way to Longford, undisturbed. Like you can cycle the whole way and not see a car. It's brilliant. So I basically cycled to Longford in 2 days, kind of went down halfway and put up the tent, camped the night, brought my little stove. And, oh yeah, the thing is I wanted to test out the stove as well and see how it is to cook a meal and all this kind of stuff, So had me food anyway, and then get up in the morning, had breakfast, got going again, and ended up in Longford the next day, And then I was kind of going, oh, I have to cycle now all the way from Longford back to Galway, and I kind of went, you know what now? This route is lovely. So I just turned around and went back the way I came and made my way back to Dublin again, and then I got the train home. So that kind of had the seed in my head, right? The bike works, the gear works, the stove works, I know how to eat and all that kind of stuff, whenever I'll survive. And I said, when I finish work now in a couple of months, I'm going to hit off and do a big trip. So that's when I just kind of started looking what's abroad, And it's, it's obviously nicer to go abroad as well, because the weather can be nicer as well, and you can go further and stuff. So the Eurovelo, I just saw these signs, like there's loads of signs in Ireland, and the Eurovelo 1 passes through Ireland. It goes down all on the west coast, you could say. And like the Eurovelo 1, it starts at the north of Norway, comes down on the coast of Norway, it goes over Scotland into Ireland, and then goes down through France and Portugal and stuff. So I was kind of going, do you know what now? I'll do that. So I literally was looking at the maps and stuff, and I was like looking at all these different routes, and I didn't know how far I would be cycling a day. I didn't know what the terrain would be like. Would it be hills, be this or that, So I just said, just play everything by ear. So I had nothing booked. The only thing I booked was I booked the ferry from Ringaskiddy in Cork over to Roscoff. So I finished up work, and the following week, I literally just had a week of just saying goodbye to everyone, and then and get the bike ready and all that kind of stuff. I packed my bags, I put the panniers onto the bike, basically put all my gear, sleeping bag, tent, and a bit of food and clothes. And I went as minimal as I could. So I had one set of cycling gear and another set, as the spare set. I had one change of clothes and a spare set. That was it, so I kept it really, really minimum, and then just hit off. Got the ferry to Roscoff. Got off that morning. There was 2 of the lads on the ferry as well that were cycling, who cycled on like me, but they were going in opposite directions. So that was it. I was on my own, and totally played it by ear. Didn't know how far I was going to be cycling a day or that, so I didn't know how far I'd be going. So there's no kind of booking anything. So like you're just hitting off cycling, just enjoying the scenery, not knowing where you're going to stop for the night. So I just hit off the first day, tipped along. I think I did maybe 80 or 90k the first day, but again, like, it was nice and handy cycling. No, you've all day to do it, so you're not going fast. I think I used to be doing an average of like 16, 17, 18 kilometers an hour. That was the kind of the pace you're doing. It's a slow pace. You're looking and you're touring, So I followed the Eurovelo 1, and that basically then was bringing me kind of right down, heading south through France. But like you basically go into campsites and you just rock up and just say like, again, and I've no French, like literally just a couple of words. Rock up and just say you want to stay the night, and the campsites will always make space for you. Now, first of all, it was the kids weren't on holidays yet, so it wasn't peak season yet. This was the month of May, so there was always space. But even if campsites are are busy, they'll always make space for all the cycle tourists because we take up so little space. Like it's not like we're a camper van or a caravan, And it's kind of a rule of thumb. They look after the hikers and cyclists. They'll always kind of squeeze you in somewhere, And they're so lovely. They're very accommodating because that's their business. All these campsites. So and they are everywhere. Like if you are following the Eurovelo route, there is campsites dotted all along the way. So it's very easy to find a place to stay. So the first day I think I'd done 80, 90k, whatever. Maybe then the next day I was doing, and I kept going along. But as I found then, I was like 100k was kind of a nice kind of distance to do every day because you're stopping in between as well, and like you're going through lovely towns and villages, having lunch, and kind of you want to see the sights as well. But after 4 days, anyway, that was the Eurovelo 1 over. Then I just seen a sign for Eurovelo 6, which takes you eastwards in through France. And I followed the Loire River, and it was lovely. You're following this river, and you're going through these beautiful towns, and there's chateaus every couple of miles all along. And then you're going through all the wineries and stuff. And it's breathtaking. Like I'm overloaded with how much I've seen. Like when I look back, I can't even it's hard to put a place of where I was just getting so much in. Like every corner you turned, something new, something that it was just awe-inspiring all along the way, So I kept going anyway till I got to the German-Swiss border. I was on the Rhine River then, so I literally went into Switzerland for like 20 minutes just to say I cycled in Switzerland. I came back out, and then I followed the Rhine River north, and just going up along the river, then made my way up along, and the Rhine River splits basically France and Germany, so you're kind of going back and over between the two borders along the way, but you're just going north, and you're going to a place like Strasbourg, and I'm basically made my way up to Cologne. Now meanwhile, my girlfriend Sarah rang me. I've probably gone maybe 2 weeks this stage, and she was saying that she had a bit of time off coming up, and I'll come over for a bit of a break in the middle sometime. And we just looked, and it was literally going to be like 15 days time. So I was like, right. So she didn't know where I was going to be in 15 days time. So I said, I'll go away and I'll have a rough idea. So I had to go away and look. I was doing 100 kilometers a day. So where will I be in 1,500 kilometers? So I basically plotted a route on the phone, and I kind of went, right, I'll be in Belgium. So she basically met me in Belgium then actually 15 days later. So I kind of went up to Cologne and went over to Eindhoven, Antwerp, onto the Netherlands coast. And then I was coming down along the north coast of the Netherlands into Belgium. Then I met Sarah then for literally 5 days. She met her at the train station. We just booked an apartment for a few days. The bike was left in the corner, and we did all the sightseeing stuff. We went like kind of on day trips to Bruges and Ghent and all these places, and done a bit of sightseeing. It was lovely, and we had a beach holiday then another day as well because the weather was lovely, And she left then. I had a week to get down as far as the ferry again. And it just got so tough because now on the north coast of France, it's hills. There was a storm. It was 40-kilometer-an-hour winds coming, headwinds all day long for a couple of days. So it was really hard days. And I was like, I remember just going, what am I doing? So, up to this point, for like weeks, up to this point, it was lovely, Like, I mean, there was hard days, like, but it was just, it was grand. But now I'm just like, I was like, what am I doing, But next to the storm passed anyway, the sun came out again. And in the last couple of days, in the last 3 or 4 days, were absolutely lovely. And it just, I'm glad the bad days weren't at the end, But I just had some glorious days in coming down on the coast. And I basically made my way back in then and just got on the ferry again and made my way home. So like it's very easy to get down to the ferry. Like I got the city link down to the airport and I cycled down to the ferry and the same home then. But I'm going to do a few cycling trips down in Cork myself again, like just kind of a couple of small ones. Like a few have asked me like, oh, was it daunting going off? And I was kind of going, no, it wasn't. So maybe the things just don't faze me that much either, but it actually wasn't really because of this Facebook group. It's like cycle touring and backpacking, this kind of Facebook group. I asked a few questions before I left, and I just put out a question like, how easy is it to get a camp spot? And everyone was like, it's really easy. You just rock up. That's it. So once I heard that from somebody, I was like, okay, that's it. That's just rock up. I was kind of wondering like, oh, well, I get food easy. There's loads of places to get food along the way, and like France cuisine goes hand in hand. So it's very easy to eat out if you want or whatever that. Like I made the decision, I'm only going to be doing kind of breakfast myself, and I'll just get lunch in a shop or whatever along the way, and I'll like every night then I just have a pizza because it's a lot more food to be carrying and all that kind of stuff if you're going to be doing your own cooking. So I just kind of just had breakfast. So I used to have porridge, maybe eggs, maybe a cup of coffee in the morning, and then hit off and get going. And after that, then I just go into bakeries and get bread, fruit, you name it, all along the way. And yeah, so it's so easy to do it. So while I was doing it, our friend Steph was texting me like, and she was getting info, and I was sitting in the back to her all the info, and I was kind of saying, yeah, no, this is really cool. Because again, it was daunting for her to go off on her own as well, But no, I would tell anybody who was thinking about it, go off in a group, go off on your own. The beauty about going on your own is you do your own thing, your own timing. You're tired, you stop. You're thirsty, you stop, whatever. Whereas you're with a group, you're you can only go as far as the weakest person, like, the weakest link, kind of, I shouldn't say weakest link, but you know what I mean? It was great. Like, I could do my own thing. Like, there was days there, like when I say I was doing 100K a day, like, that was the average overall. Like, the longest day I was 140K or something, Now, it was a hard day, I will say, like, it was, but in the case of, like, I was on my own, so I didn't have to listen to anybody else complaining about myself, and you're carrying a lot of weight, like, so it's not like, like just going for 140K on a road bike. You're going on a gravel bike on kind of towpaths and stuff, like in like your greenway type things, and there was hills and wind and everything, so like it's harder cycling because like you're carrying these big bags and stuff with you. It was easier to do it on your own, I would find, and I would advise anyone to do it on your own, and you'll meet people along the way then,
That's what I was going to say. You obviously will meet people along the way as well that are doing a similar route, even if it's only for 20K of 100K that you're doing. That company there for 20K is probably a nice distraction to get you going.
Yeah, like this, like I remember the first week I found that everyone was going the opposite direction. I was saying hello to people going the opposite direction. I was like, why is everyone going the opposite direction to me? But then I got into a part then where I was like, okay, now there's so many people, like everyone is out on their bikes, and yeah, you'd be going along, and to be every nationality you can think of, you will come across these people, like, and all walks of life, and like people. There was a guy I was talking to. He was a French Canadian guy, and he goes, I don't know what you do for a living, he says, but I work hard to be able to take a bit of time off, and he just was taking time off and he was just hitting off on the bike, and he was just doing his own thing, just a bit of a break from work and break from everything. And like, really colorful characters, interesting characters you meet along the way, And then the next day you could be going the opposite direction.
The question I want to ask you actually is, how do you prepare for taking on a mammoth trek like that? 3,200 kilometers is not to be sneezed at, or doing an average of 100K a day is quite a lot. So I know you had a lot of fitness, you have a lot of endurance in general, and your biking has gotten stronger, but still it's a lot of cycling to do over the period of time that you did it.
Yeah, even myself, I was kind of going, how will I, I didn't know, like, even starting, how long will I take, or will I go till I take a bit of a break or a day off or a rest day, and that kind of stuff, because like I've only ever gone on this, like, on a cycling holiday, and you might do 5 or 6 days in a row. Like, now I'm going to be doing like 30 odd days in a row, I kind of had in my head, and you know what? It was literally, it was kind of like back to the training in the Arctic. I'm going to try and cycle it without sweating. That was my thing, like, as in, like, try and cycle without putting on mad pressure. Now, of course, there was hot days. Like, it was in the high 20s and 30s, or it was, I think the hottest day was 30 degrees. So I was looking, if it's hotter now, if you were over there now. But like, sun's going to make you sweat. I was trying not to put on too much effort, that I was just going to be tipping away all day, I didn't want to be out of breath any day, because I mean, there's no way you'll be able to do that. Like, I mean, unless you're in the Tour de France, you're not going to be out of breath all day long, So I was just going tipping along, and you're taking in the views and all that kind of, so I knew, well, I can do that grand. But I just found actually, that I was getting stronger every day. Like, I remember, like, after a week, I was kind of like, like, you'll be tired in the evenings and all that kind of stuff. The following week, I wasn't half as tired, and I was putting in even harder days, because I was just getting, it was like as if every day you were training for the next day. Like, your legs just got used to it. Like, and they really did. And it was like as if like 100K was nothing. Like, it literally was, it felt like nothing, because, like, again, as someone said, you just have to get up and cycle. Like, so every morning I used to wake up. It used to take me from when I'd wake up to when I'd be on the bike 2 hours, because I used to get up, and it was literally like a transition. Get up, have breakfast. Then you just go brush your teeth. And then it was a case of like, right, pack all the things, put it away and all that stuff, repack the bike and go. And like, that used to take 2 hours every morning. And I was on the bike. And like, the thing is, that was it. Once you're cycling, like, and now the beauty about it is you're starting lovely and warm. Like, I used to be starting 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. It was already 18, 19, 20 degrees. So like, your muscles are warm starting off. And that made it so much easier, because I did notice the last week it was cooler. Coming down the north of France now, it was that bit cooler in the mornings. It was that bit hard to get, it was a bit harder getting going. I remember I used to actually put into a low gear and just spin the legs for, maybe 20 minutes just to get the legs warmed up before I'd start putting on a bit of pressure, But it was easier to do it in the sun. And the same thing, like, but again, like, when I used to stop every evening and go to a campsite, I had a little routine, and it was a case of get into the campsite, put up my tent, get all that done. Then I do stretches. I would easily be like 20 minutes on the ground, rolling around, doing stretches and all that kind of stuff. And the thing is, I knew I had to do that to have my legs nice and fresh for the next day. Because if not, your legs get tighter and tighter as you're going on. And eventually, it's like pulling an elastic, eventually it's going to break. So like, I knew, well, I'll do my stretches and all that kind of stuff. I used to be doing my stretches while putting up the tent, because I wanted to combine everything. I used to be eating then, right? I mean, if anyone's looking at me, like, it's good to eat straight away coming off the bike. So I'd always have a bit of food as well there, like maybe a roll or a banana or something, I used to be eating while doing stretches. So I would literally be like, I'd be standing up and I'd be bent over eating a roll, and like, I was stretching my calves, I was stretching my quads, and that's what I was doing. I'd be like lying on the ground eating my roll. I was just combining all these things to get them done nice and quick, and then the next thing was shower. you have to get clean. So it's like straight into the showers, then into the sinks in, wash all your gear and hang it out to dry. I was putting up a line every day, trying to have the gear washed and dry, because the thing is, like, you don't have wet gear the next day. Now, the beauty about it is there was great drying over there. 2 or 3 hours, your gear was dry. But if it wasn't, I had a spare set. And that was my routine. And it just worked. Like, as I said, and like throughout the evenings, like, if I went uptown to get a pizza, I'd be in the pizzeria and I literally would be standing on one leg, stretching my quad. And I was just stretching my muscles and everything, maintaining the legs all along, And I found it just worked for me. That was it. And I'd no niggles or any of that kind of stuff. So, but I did find when the weather was about 10 degrees cooler in the north of France coming down, there was days I could feel the quads getting a bit tight. So what I was doing was, like, while I was freewheeling down a hill, I was usually stretching my quads or be stretching my calf muscles off the pedals of the bike. That's what I was doing, And that kept me going. I was able to get, like, while I was cycling, I was actually stretching muscles. And yeah, you just have to just get up every day and just cycle your bike. So it's kind of a simple life when you break it down. You cycle your bike, get to the destination, and then you go through all these steps to get your camp ready. And then, and again, it took me a few days to get my little routine. Like, I knew what I had to do. 4 or 5 days, I had nailed down. And that was it. Like, I said, this works for me, and it was great. I had my tint up before others, and people would be faffling around their poles and things. Like, I'd have done, like, transitions and stuff. You get your task in hand. And I had a little kind of, as I said, like, routine. Like, I wasn't putting the cart before the horse. I was doing what had to be done first. And, yeah. So that anyway kept me going anyway. And it just got easier and easier because I knew what I had to do,
And if you look back on the adventure, what would you do differently if you were to go do another cycling adventure like that again?
In planning it, I just looked at the map of France and kind of like Germany and all this. And I was kind of saying, oh, sure, I'll go down here, across here, up here, whatever, If I was to do it again, what I learned was prevailing winds. And I'm there going, like, I should have known this. So, like, I had headwinds. Say most of it, when I was going inland, the winds are coming one way, but the north to France, the winds are going the other way. And if I'd planned it, I would have done it the opposite way around. So I did more or less an anti-clockwise kind of circle. If I'd done it clockwise, I would have been home 10 days earlier nearly. I know, but I mean, like, it would have been much easier, but I'd probably look into conditions more, whereas I wasn't then. I just wanted to get out and go cycling. Other than that, do you know what? Nothing much else. Like, the winds just slowed me down and made it a couple of days harder there at the end, whatever. But other than that, I wouldn't change an awful lot, I actually got the gear pretty much spot on. Like, as like I was saying, I wasn't cooking any dinners because I should just, like, go to a pizzeria or a restaurant, get a bit of pasta at night, whatever, and just getting, like, I was just eating nice and simple meals, nothing major. I brought 2 emergency meals with me just in case I couldn't get meals along the way. And I got it to a T. I used one of them after a week. I arrived in a campsite one night in the middle of nowhere and there was nowhere to eat. So I was like, okay, grand, sure, I'll eat my emergency dinner. And the last night I needed to use a meal. So I couldn't have planned it any better. I actually used my last emergency meal on the last night. Now, I could have cycled down to the town, but the campsite was up on a hill, now a fair climb up to it. And I said, if I go cycling down to the town, that's grand, I'll fly down. I'm not going cycling up that hill again on a belly full of pizza, And again, I'd have to be going for another shower and, like, you know what I mean? I said, no, do you know what? I'll eat my emergency meal. I've been carrying this around my bag now for the last month. I'll eat it. So, like, things just went well. Maybe I planned for things I didn't realize, but it just went well for me, the way it was, I wouldn't change too much, really. I'll be honest. But I am looking forward to going again, exploring, maybe going to Germany, Netherlands, because it's just, you cannot get over how easy it is to cycle over there. Like, you come up to junctions and cars are just hitting you across, and like, you come up to roundabouts because the cycle lanes everywhere and they're just all over the place, and it just makes it so safe. Like, I went through big cities. Most of your cycling's out in the countryside, but now and again you have to come into a city and then go out to the far side of it. Genie Mac, you go into Galway there or anywhere like that, and, like, you need 3 heads looking around yourself, obviously cycling around the place, and you'd have to have fair good bike handling skills to cycle around Galway. But I mean, I went through big cities with a lot of traffic. With panniers, the bike, I was 3 times as wide as myself, like big panniers and stuff, and heavy bike, and no bother, because the bike lanes are safe. Everyone's so courteous. It's so safe. It's you couldn't get over how good it was, It's so designed for cyclists. If anyone had any inkling in going over, they don't have to do a month. They could go for a week, go somewhere, I would be onto them and I'd be telling them how easy it is to do it, and it's not as daunting as they would think,
I've got one final question for you. Where do you think has this passion for sport and adventure and outdoors and everything come from? Has it been brewing for a long time, or is it just something that came upon you once you kind of got the bug for triathlon and then suddenly saw freedom and adventure as a way of life?
You said freedom there, like, it is freedom. You know yourself. And freedom doesn't have to be extreme. You can go for a walk on the prom, and that's freedom. And you stand the prom there in Galway any day of the year, and, like, how many people are walking the prom, and that's their freedom, And I do it too. I might just go a little bit further and I go hiking in the mountains. Now, again, with going mountain rescue, you have to be fit. So there was days I'm going out on my own, and I'm going out for long days on my own. I'm talking like, 6-8 hours just going through high hills, a lot of climbing and stuff. And again, trying to learn skills on the way and stuff, maintaining, not trying to be sweating much and all that kind of stuff, keep myself fit. But that's my freedom, My mind goes a million miles away, and it could be anything. I'd really need to have a dictaphone or a notebook to be writing down the things. I could be thinking about anyone, my family members, friends, past family members. You'd be thinking about everything, Anthony, and that's just my freedom. That's the way I kind of get out and do it, And like whether it's on a bike or walking or swimming, like there's no talking and swimming, but like I'll go off there and I could be swimming away, and sure, you could look back in your watch there and you see the speed you were swimming, and you go, geez, I kind of slowed down there, but like, and it wasn't anything to do with current, it's because I was thinking about something, and I probably nearly stopped swimming, like that. Now the main thing will be freedom, Joanne. No, it really is, and again, like, it doesn't have to be anything, as I said, extreme or anything like that, but it's lovely to get out and just get out in the air and get out and about,
Well, I think that's a great motto to live by. Get out in the air, get out and get your freedom. And Gabriel Walsh, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I'm
looking forward to part 2 now, Joanne, when we're doing volume 2 of this.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we'll cover in part 2. We definitely will find something. For all the time I've known you, I've learned so much more about you, about the stuff you've been up to, and it's fascinating. Here's to the next adventure.
Yeah, I'll have to go planning. I'll have to go plotting the next one. I don't know what it's going to be, but I will go planning though.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can get in touch with any feedback or guest suggestions by emailing me on trytalkingsport@gmail.com. You can follow all of our activities and podcasts on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram. Pop by, say hi, let me know what you think of the show. If you're new to Try Talking Sport, please do check out some of our previous episodes. You will be impressed and inspired by our guests. And don't forget to tell your friends about the show as well. That would be awesome. Finally, be sure to sign up to our e-zine featuring articles of interest, some great discounts, and the inside track on supporting your triathlon and endurance sport journey, wherever it may take you. Sign up on www.trytalkingsport.com. It takes 30 seconds, and as always, I promise I won't bombard your inbox with emails, just the cool stuff. Until next time, stay safe, keep smiling, and remember to look for fun and adventure in every day.